A very good morning and a happy new year to all of you. Welcome to yet another call organized by Jungle Bells. Jungle Bells is an exclusive women's wildlife group. We are into wildlife related activities, conservation, and wildlife tours. If you have any questions for the guest, please type them in the comments section below and we will address them after his talk. Also, if you want to receive further communication from us about our events, please type in your email addresses and phone numbers in the comments section. You can also follow us on our Facebook page, jungle_bells. Thank you. Well, something about our guest of today's webinar, Dr. Govind Sagar Bharadwaj. Dr. Govind Sagar Bharadwaj joined Indian Forest Service in 1994. As a manager of natural resources, he has served in various capacities in different forest divisions of Rajasthan, including managing one of the best tiger reserves of the country, Ranthambore National Park, and he has authored a book on tracking tigers in Ranthambore. Later, he also served as field director, Sariska Tiger Reserve. As Chief Conservator of Forests, Jodhpur, he has supervised the various conservation efforts for conservation of critically endangered Great Indian Bustard under the ambitious program of Project Great Indian Bustard in Thar landscape, apart from managing the wilderness of desert ecosystem of Western India. He is a commission member of IUCN SSC Bustard Specialist Group. He has also done extensive survey of lesser fluorescens in its range and also avian faunal survey in Trans-Himalayan region during his tenure in Wildlife Institute of India. Well, more credentials for him. He has done his PhD from University of Rajasthan on the topic entitled Plant Resource Utilization by Avian Fauna in Sita Mata Wildlife Sanctuary. He is the recipient of the State Award in 1999 for outstanding services for the state of Rajasthan. The award was given for saving the life of villagers and a tiger that had strayed outside the forest into a village, during which he was badly mauled by the tiger. A keen traveler and a writer, Dr. Bharadwaj is also an avid wildlife photographer whose images have been published in many journals and magazines of fame, and he is also the recipient of the Best Wildlife Photographer of the Year award, second prize in the year 2011 by Sanctuary Asia. He is also recipient of Chaturvedi Award for the best article published in Wildlife in Forester in 2017. Earlier, he was additional PCCF for Forests and Nodal Officer, Rajasthan, Jaipur. Now, he's the member secretary, Rajasthan State Pollution Control Board. So these were all his credentials, and we are really delighted to have him right now, Govind sir. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Govind sir to start with his. I'll be able to hear more from him right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mangi. Thank you, Aarti, and all elite workers from Jungle Bells. And first of all, let me say one word, that is Happy New Year to all of you. And let me start my talk. Okay, when we talk about Thar Desert or Jaisalmer, a picture. Can we start our
Yes.
presentation? Okay, when we, everybody, my presentation, I have divided presentation in three parts. In third part, I'll describe about what kind of wilderness we are having in this landscape. Then I will talk about management issues, and later in third part of the session, I will talk about how we are managing this landscape. Okay, can we tap? इसको बड़ा करते हैं? Okay. It's in full screen.
Is it okay, sir?
Yes, it's okay. Okay. So when I joined Indian Forest Service, I was having the impression that this Rajasthan is the state where there is no forest, and I was having the impression this Thar landscape is must be full of sand dunes, camels, and people wearing multicolored turbans. That's general impression of this landscape. Even for a common layman who visits this area as a tourist, uh, he's having impression of only sand dunes, sunsets, or camels. But when I worked in this area as a manager, I have come across so many wilderness areas, so many elements of biological diversity, ethnic culture, birds, animals, and even the critical endangered species. Let me have a quick journey in this landscape. Just I'll show some slides. What kind of wilderness, what kind of people, what kind of this area offers us to conserve. Okay, next, please. Next. Okay, the area, the whole of this Thar area, Thar Desert, it is not only in Rajasthan, but also some parts of Pakistan, Haryana, and Punjab. It's the areas around 2.85 lakhs, around 0.3 million square kilometers. It's a big, huge area. But I will talk about only of Thar Desert of Rajasthan. Next, please. You might have seen one movie, Mission Impossible uh, 3, that Ghost Protocol. This picture reminds of that movie when Ethan Hunt was clinging to one tower. This kind of sand dune was approaching towards him. This is a typical scenario of Thar Desert or Jaisalmer or Desert National Park during spring summer months. These are the sandstorms that we witness in this area. This is also general impression of people who are visiting this area. Next. And this is also land of sunrise, beautiful sunrises. If you visit this area, you'll come across this kind of sunrise next. Or sunset. This is a typical photograph from sand dunes of some and the Desert National Park. Next. Or this is the area of camels. That's the impression of general public tourists. Next. And this is another one, grazier of this area, bearing multi-color. These are typical photographs we get from this area. Next, just next, please. This is full of culture. And the people are really beautiful. This is one photograph, local community, Rajput community in a village Dhani. Next, next. The population is very high. This is a desert. This desert is having maximum density across the world, human density across the world. This is so many people are in this landscape. That's why it's posing a threat on the conservation of wilderness. Next, I'm showing some slides that will just show you what kind of people, what kind of culture, what kind of wildlife we are having. People are very simple. Life is very simple. They don't use mobile. They don't use technology. They don't have that kind access to mainstream of development. But this is a lifestyle that is having minimum carbon footprint. Next. And lifestyle is very difficult. People are living very harsh conditions. Water is a limiting factor, and you can see how this villager is pulling water from a deep well with the help of donkeys. Next. This is one of typical jhopa. We call it jhopa or hut in the Thar Desert. Next, please. And how this little young girl is pulling water from well. This is known as kheli. Next. And in some areas, women have to fetch water from kilometers. You can see two women were fetching water from far distance from their village. Next. And I have seen still these camels are used for transportation of water from source to their water storage facilities locally called tankas. Next. And this is tanka where they store water for their regular use or for drinking purpose or drinking for their cattle. Next. Next. I've seen women cleaning their utensils with very small amount of water and using most of the sand. You can see this is one of the village called Chohani, how women are cleaning the utensil with very less amount of water. Next. This landscape offers only one kind of occupation, that is cattle rearing. As you know, the rainfall precipitation is very less, and so there's only one occupation that can be thrived upon, and that is cattle rearing. And for cattle rearing, you need to have vast grasslands, and these grasslands are present in this landscape. We can't practice modern agriculture because of lack of water. So this is a landscape where only primary occupation can be livestock rearing. Next. Although we are having agriculture practices now. Next. This is one typical photo how a boy is milking milk from a sheep. Next. Next. And this is one of Jhopa where local produce called matira is being collected. Next. And this is the area I told you this it's not having forest, but what kind of vegetation it is having? It is typical grassland ecosystem. It's not a forest ecosystem. We won't find huge trees like devdar or sal or teak, but definitely we are having this landscape with so many grass species and other local bushes. So grassland ecosystem is the major ecosystem in this area. And now I'll talk about what kind of vegetation or what kind of animals, what kind of faunal elements we are having in this desert ecosystem, that is Desert National Park or Thar area. So this is one of the photograph of Desert National Park. It's a grassland with one species that is great Indian bustard, which is a flagship species of this area. It is in this closer in this grassland. Next. Now we'll have a quick journey in the floristic value or the vegetation of this area. We were having the impression, even I was having the impression that it is only having sand dunes and some bushes. When we surveyed whole of this area, I served in that area, and these are some of the photographs of some few species that I'm showing. Not all the species. So this is the one flagship species. You can see it's all blooming. This is care. Care means Caparis decidua. This is the keystone species of this landscape. Most of the faunal species, bird species, and animal species are dependent on this. Next. And this is Khejdi. Khejdi means Prosopis cineraria. This is the state tree of Rajasthan. And it is having too much ecological and economic value for the local communities. You might have heard one term known as Kher Sangri. Sangri, it's a vegetable of Sangri is used as food by the local villagers. Even in big hotels and big resorts, it is served. It is a delicacy. Not only this, its branches are used as fuel and leaves for fodder for the local communities for their cattle. Next. Another plant, this is known as fog. This is Caligonum polygonidis. This is very important plant because its roots and other branches are used as a fuel wood by the local villagers. Next. It is a folk plant which is used as the woman is carrying a headload of folk plant. Next. And this is again the plant I told you about, the care, which is that the Caparis decido, which is a keystone species. It's a blooming plant, again in Desert National Park. Next. And this again, same plant. Next, please. These are fruits of care plant, Caparis decidua. Next. This Salvadora oleoides, also known as pilu. This is a very important plant, local plant. It is also as a great Indian bustard. Eat its berries. So it's also food for great Indian bustard. Next. Next, please. This is Arva soda tomentosa, locally called bui. White inflorescence, white flowers is a characteristic feature of this plant. Next. This is the inflorescence of bui plant. That is, you can see the beautiful flowers we are having in this area. Next. We'll go this page. Next. This is a Haloxylon salicornicum, same plant, locally called lana. Lana means namak. So, even still, some communities, some villagers used its seeds and leaves as salt in their vegetables. Next. This is again a local plant called the Khimp, Leptadina pyrotechnica. Next, please. This is Calotropis procera. Next. This is Taphrosia falciparum, is again very important plants on dunar system. Next. This is Crotalaria borea, very important, also called Cinia. And this Cinia plant is also used by the local villagers for thatching their houses. Next. This is very important grass. This is known as Lessurus syndicus. Lessurus syndicus means this is savannah grass. Most of the villagers and feed their cattle with this grass. This is a savannah grass. And also we have seen great Indian busters and other important faunal elements or animals they used to roost inside this grass. Next, please. This is very important. Phagoni critica. It's a very important plant. During peak summer months, one can see when all the vegetation when die, is the only plant which is still surviving. This is known as Dhamasa or Phagoni critica. Next is, next please. This is Dipterogen glaucum, locally called Feli. Next. This is Gokru, or in scientific name it is Tribulus space. Next. I'm just showing these slides that you can have a just glimpse what kind of vegetation we are having in this area. Next. This is Indigofera plant. This is very important plant for a great Indian buster. Again, this is very important plant for the survival of buster. Next, please. This is a Gysechia species. Again, very small ephemeral of this landscape. Next. Euphorbia species, again, a very important plant of this area. Next, please. Same species. Next. This is again a plant you will come across during monsoon season and winters. This is known as Convolvulus prostratus. Next. This is Corchorus esturus, again important plant. Next, please. Arnevia species. Next. Again, Helioprim species. Again, very common during monsoon season. Next, please. This is of Cucurbitaceae family. During winter season, you will come across hundreds and hundreds of these berries, these fruits lying on the ground, on the grasslands. This is Citrula species. Next. And I have also tasted one plant called Matira during winters or even in summers when there was no water. It was serving as a full source of water during those pinch harsh months. Next. Even most of the butterflies and insects are dependent on these plants. Next, please. Next. Even species of ants, they are dependent on many members of Poaceae gramineae or grass family to survive. You can see how these ant species are collecting seeds. Next. Not only ant species, they are also have seen collecting flosses of uh, bhuri plant, which is the Aruga pseudotomentosa. You can see, next please, next. How this individual ant is carrying one seed with floss to other area. Next. Where you don't see, you go early in the morning. When if we talk about wildlife, यार हमें तो कुछ नजर नहीं आया, यहाँ desert में कुछ नहीं है. But if you go early in the morning, you observe the sand dune, you will come across thousands and thousands of trails on the untouched sand dunes in this landscapes. Can you believe what trails are these? These represents some of the local denizens, some insects and some birds. Next, please. This is one individual which is known as dung beetle on this sand dune. Next. This again dung beetle making a trail, and everybody knows, or a wildlife biologist or a scientist or a manager knows about the behavior of this beetle is used to roll dung. That's why it's known as dung beetle. Next. I've also seen these dung beetles feeding from the dung, undigested dung from a dead animal. That is, this is one lizard which is known as Sanda or spiny tail lizard. How these insects are going inside the cloacal aperture of this dead lizard, taking the undigested food, that is the dung, from inside and going outside. Next. Not only this, if you visit this area during dark hours, during night hours, you will come across another arachnid, that is, these are scorpions, the species scorpions during night hours. Okay. Next, please. और अगर आप इसको डिस्टर्ब करो, if you disturb this animal, you go nearer to this this arachnid, it starts digging its small burrow just to evade its approaching a person or predator. This is a burrowing strategy, anti-predator strategy. Next, please. And of course, I've showed you all what kind of floristic elements we are having. Just a glimpse and some insects. Now let's talk about the big, some mega or charismatic species of this landscape. And you can see this slide. It's a group of this is just a herd of chinkara. This is which is state animal of Rajasthan in one of the closer in Desert National Park. And behind these animals, you can see one sand dune. This is actually sand dunes of some area. Next. Again, this is a chinkara posing on a sand dune. This is one of my favorite photographs. Next, please. Can you identify? This is blue bull. This is blue bull means this is locally called Rajoda. This is one of largest. This is not one of the. This is largest antelope of Rajasthan, not Rajasthan, but the country. And you can see how the population of this blue bull is increasing. Next. Can you see? Can somebody tell me why this young fawn has raised its tail? Can anybody tell me? इसने अपनी पूंछ क्यों खड़ी कर रखी है?
If anyone knows, you can type in the comments.
Okay, you know this is not tail. This is actually great Indian bustard behind this young young blue bull. Okay. So this is one of my favorite photographs. Where Bubble come. Next, please. Go inside. Go. And we don't have tiger, we don't have lion, but we do have one very important felid member, which is known as Asiatic wild cat or desert cat. Next. And this is again another shot of desert cat in this same area. Next. And again, desert cat on a sand dune. I'm just showing you what kind of what photograph, what kind of scenes this landscape can offer you. Next. This is this series is one of my favorite series. How a young kitten is playing with its mom. This is again desert cat with its young kitten. Next. Next, please. Next. Next. Next.
Wonderful.
Next. Next. And this is my favorite shot because you can see how this young kitten is negotiating with his mom as if he is saying something to mother cat. Okay, next. Next. We do have two fox species, foxes. This is Indian fox. This landscape is having Indian fox. You can identify or you can clearly differentiate between desert fox and Indian fox by looking at the tip of the tail. When you see the tip of the tail of fox is black, it is 100% Indian fox. Next. Next. And when tip of her tail is white, it is desert fox. This is a basic difference between Indian fox and desert fox. That's for young students or young people who are working on the canids of desert. Next. This is how the young puppies of desert fox, they're playing with its mom. Next. And we do have some small denizens, small rodents in this land. So this is the Indian desert gerbils. Next. And this area is full of birds also, but these gerbils, these desert gerbils are very important part of food chain as this is food of so many raptor species. This slide shows how lager falcon is feeding on Indian desert gerd. Next. This is how Eurasian griffon is taking off. Next. This is a group of vultures. You can see Eurasian griffon plus one Himalayan vulture. Next. This is a long-bill vulture. Next, please. Cinereus vulture. Cinereus vulture, largest vulture, is a migratory bird. Next. And this is your red-headed vulture, very the critically endangered species. Next. This is white-backed vulture. Next. Again, red-headed vulture. And apart from vultures, we do have some very interesting eagles, raptors. This is the Eastern Imperial Eagle. It's juvenile stage. Next. This tawny eagle on a sand dune. Next. Taking this steppe eagle from taking off sand dune. Next. And again, steppe eagle. Next, please. Short-toed snake eagle. This is very important raptor in this landscape. As the name suggests, most of the time, this raptor, this bird of prey, feeds on snakes. Next. This is again a winter migratory bird. This is known as long-legged buzzard. Next, please. Long-legged buzzard during flight. Next. Lager falcon on a sand dune. Next, please. Again, lager falcon. You can see so many trails of insects. That's why this raptor has come to feed on these beetles. Next. This is red-necked falcon again from desert. This is a common kestrel. Next. This is some harriers. Montagu's harrier male. Next, please. This again Montagu's harrier female. Next, please. and how these harriers used to dive, used to play, used to bank when they are feeding on the locusts or other insects in this grassland ecosystem. Next, please. Everybody can identify this bird. This is bulbul. This is a white-eared bulbul. This is one of the most common bird in this landscape. Next, please. This same bird, white-eared bulbul. As the name suggests, this is desert wheat here. This is again a very common winter migratory bird in this landscape. Next, please. This is again a variable wheat here. Next, please. Most common bird. This is Eurasian collared dove, which is flying. Next. This is chestnut-bellied sand grouse. Next. And thousands of larks, especially bimaculated larks, you can see during winter seasons. Next. This is bimaculated lark. You can clearly identify bimaculated lark by the presence of a necklace-like black markings uh, around her throat. You can see. Next. This is imperial sand grouse. You know, imperial sand grouse is one of the very rare bird and which was common visitor in this landscape. It was seen in last few years only in some Ramgarh, Netse grasslands in near Ramgarh area of Jaisalmer. Now we are not witnessing any record of this bird in this area because of poaching, maybe in a migration route. Next, please. We do have desert lark. This is present only in this area. Next, please. Again, desert lark. Next. This is a rufous-tailed shrub robin. Very. This again, you can see in this western part of Rajasthan and even Gujarat. Next. This is a very interesting bird, which is known as white broad bush chat, or called or Stolicja bush chat. It's a very famous bird. We know this bird because of its spectacular dance. Next, list displaying dance. Next. This kind of behavior is known as puff and roll behavior of Stolicja bush chat. Next, please. And this is cream-colored courser. This is present only in desert area. This is also known as desert courser. It's also present in Gujarat, especially GRK area, Greater Rann of Kutch. This is desert courser or cream-colored courser. We also having Indian courser. Next. This is trumpeter finch. This is again a winter migratory bird. Is only in one area of Kanoi near DNP we can come across this bird. It comes from Pakistan. It migrates from Pakistan during winter seasons. Next. This is greater hoopoe only in one point called Netse Netse grasslands near Ramgarh area of Jaisalmer. We can come across this kind of species. Next. Again, the Asian desert warbler is present only in this desert area. Next. And this is red-backed shrike. I have seen only once in my life. This is very, very rare species in this area. Red-backed shrike. I have seen this bird in one of the closer of a desert national park. Next. And if we talk about lizards and reptiles, monitor lizard is very common in this area. And apart from desert Indian monitor, Bengal monitor, we are also having desert monitor. Next. This is you can see how this spiny tail lizard, or scientifically call it Sara hardwicki or Sanda, how it is posing itself, showing itself like a sumo पहलवान जो बिल्कुल ऐसे position लेके खड़ा है ये. Next. Again, mating these lizards, the mating shot of this lizards. Next, please. And this sanda, this spiny tail lizard is very, very important part of food chain of desert ecosystem. I think we call it also as keystone species of this area, as many of the raptor species, many of the animal species are dependent on this. Next, we can see, you can see how this lager falcon is feeding on this lizard. Next, Indian fox. The desert fox is also feeding on this. Next. And this is another, this is a beautiful lizard, this brilliant agama. And during peak summer months, I have come across so many of these individuals on a prominent position, occupying prominent position like mounds or even on branches of small plants, so that to show themselves to other females. Next. And this is a short-toed French-toed lizard. There's another lizard in this landscape. Next, please. The same species, some lizards. Next, please. Next, please. Geckos. Next. And this is very important bird species, which is migratory bird, which is known as McQueen's bustard or Hubara bustard. You might have heard about this species. Next. This again Hubara or McQueen's bustard. Next, please. And this is the flagship species, which is the main species, main flag. It is a tiger of this grassland. It is a pulse of grassland ecosystem. That's why whole the conservation programs revolve around great Indian bustard. I've shot this bird from a height. It's really difficult to see these birds in closer nowadays. Next. This is another pose of same bird which is approaching towards the height. Next. This is great Indian bustard. Next. You can you see how it's displaying itself? It's a gular sac which is hanging down just to please its females, just to impress females. That is the breeding behavior of male great Indian bustard. Next. So, great Indian bustard is the critically endangered species. We are having in our country, we are having 4 bustard species. One is great Indian bustard, other is Hubara or McQueen's bustard that I have shown you. Third is lesser florican, and fourth is Bengal florican. This is another shot of a family of group of great Indian bustards in one of the closer of Desert National Park. Next. Again, I've seen only, this is my only photograph which is having more than 7 individuals in one frame. Next. Okay. This part of the presentation over, which was a quick journey in the wilderness of this landscape. Now, when we are having this kind of wilderness, this kind of natural resource in this part of the country, that definitely this area must be having some pressures from only one species, that is human being. Okay, so forest department, conservationists and scientists are facing some challenges. Now, I will talk about some of the challenges what we are facing for the conservation of this ecosystem. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So, in Indian part, we are having around 1.96 thousand square kilometers of Thar Desert in Indian part. This violet color portion is Thar Desert of Rajasthan or the country. Next. Next, please. So, looking at the on the pressures of human being, so many development pressures, including infrastructure, especially Indira Gandhi Nehru project, which was coming up during early 70s and early 80s. In the year 1980, a small part of this area, in the name of Desert National Park, actually it is Desert Wildlife Sanctuary, was notified, covering an area of 3,162 square kilometers. You can see this Desert National Park, the green portion, inside this yellow area. Next. So it is a representative of the grassland Thar Desert with an area 3,162 square kilometers, and it was notified in the year 1980, around 40 years ago. Next. This is essentially, it is spreading in two districts of Rajasthan. Half of the area in the Jaisalmer and half of the area is in Barmer district. Next. However, although a sanctuary, however, most of the area is not a forest land. It is only a revenue land, and the land belongs to villagers and the revenue department. The land does not belong to forest department. It's by virtue of its status as wildlife sanctuary, forest department has been entrusted for the management of this area. Otherwise, forest department is not the owner of this area. That's why we are facing some of the huge challenges and pressures. This area is fully having full network of roads. Next please. I told you it's revenue land. Next please. And what we have done in last 40 years, how to manage this area when land does not belong to forest department. There are more than 73 villages, more than 1.5 lakh cattle. So what we have done in last 40 years, we have made some closures. We made some fences and made some closures around 150 square kilometers or 140 square kilometers of area have been converted into closure. It means hardly 3.5% of the area is under the direct control of the forest department or the forest administration. Next. I told you 73 villages with a 1 lakh human population, more than 3.35 lakh cattle population is having pressure on this ecosystem. Next. And I told you Great Indian Bustard, or which is also known as Godawan in this landscape. The local name is Godawan. It is also the state bird of Rajasthan. It is critically endangered bird, and as on today, its population is not more than 150. And the population of Desert National Park or in Jaisalmer is the last breeding population, not across the country, our country, but I am talking about across the world. This is the only breeding population. We are having around 150 birds. Gujarat is having 4 to 5 birds. Even Maharashtra is not having more than 4 individuals. So maximum population, the biggest population or the source population is only in Rajasthan, that is Jaisalmer area. So everybody is watching us, and everybody is watching the Rajasthan Forest Department to save the species. That's why we are having that tremendous responsibility of conserving this species. Next, please. You can see next how this population was prevalent all over the country. Next, earlier. Next. Now, how this population has declined. Can you see the this maps? 2 maps. One map is its distribution around 5 to 6 decades ago. Now, the map on your right side is the present status distribution of this species. Next. If we talk about threats, traditionally we were talking about threats. It's habitat loss or overgrazing or encroachment, and now a new threat which is coming up, that is transmission lines or linear infrastructure. These are one of the few slides that have recovered after when we conducted raid in one of the town in Ganganagar of Rajasthan, where these hunters, they were regular poachers in this landscape. Based on these photographs, we were able to book case against these people. It's a very interesting story how a woman, she complained against her father-in-law that her father-in-law is a regular poacher We got this link, we received these photographs, and based on these photographs, we were able to book a case under Wildlife Protection Act against these people. Next. Next, please. Next. Next. These are regular poachers of this landscape early in few decades back. Next. This is a person who was a regular poacher. So based on this case, when we registered this case, despite too much pressure from so many sides, we registered a case, and because this case, there are too much hype in the media, and there was a message to society that anyone can be booked if someone goes to the jungle or these grassland and poach these birds. Next. Not only this, we do have problem encroachment. This is encroachment in landscape for agriculture purpose is also one of the biggest threat for the loss of their habitat. Next. This is again a scene of encroachment. Next. Next, please. See, can you see this Google imagery? How I have witnessed what kind of encroachment we are having. Next, please. The 2010 photograph. Next. And just in 3 years, this kind of encroachment we have observed in this landscape. This is a scenario of what kind of farming we are having this century. The red portion shows these farming areas, and you can well imagine to what extent this landscape and all the wilderness, including plants, animals, birds, are facing pressure from encroachment or from other activities of farming. Next. Grazing is very useful for the bustard species. It's beneficial. Next, but overgrazing is always a threat. Small numbers of cattle are always helpful. But I'm again reiterating the overgrazing is always a threat for the species because, let me explain, I was having so many arguments with so many people, so many villagers, even with my senior colleagues, my senior officers, and even conservationists. They are of the opinion that let the grazing and conservation, this species should go side by side. I was not able to convince them. But why it is not helpful, overgrazing is not helpful, let me tell you about this bird. The biology of this bird. On an average, it lays down one egg, and it is ground nesting bird. Jameen pe anda deti hai. When it lays egg on ground, it has to incubate. As long as this hen, female, is incubating its egg, the egg is safe. The moment this bird leaves its egg, abandon its egg, even for a small duration of time, then definitely predators like crows, predators like dogs, predators like foxes, predators like mongooses, and predators like eagles, they can kill its eggs. I hope I do have time, Shivangi.
Yes, sir. We do have time.
Okay. So, but there are threats for the threats on the nests of this bird. The moment if small amount of cattle are there, small number of cattle, there won't be an issue. But because of overgrazing, the cattle are most of the time are accompanied by grazier. The moment a grazier approaches near an incubating female, this female abandons its egg. छोड़ के चली जाती है, कहीं से कौवा आता है या कहीं से रैप्टर आता है या नेवला आता है, उस अंडे खाता है, यानी ब्रीडिंग फेल होगा. That's why we need to protect its breeding grounds from grazing. That's why we made some closures. Okay, next. Next. So what happened in the year 2011? That time I was in Wildlife Institute of India. There was a Bustard conference for the conservation of species. How to protect this bird? How to protect other bustard also? So Bustard recovery plan was chalked out, And based on buster recovery plan, one of the major recommendation of buster recovery plan was for the creation of inviolate closures. We have to protect the landscape as inviolate spaces and also the monitoring of the bird. Next. Next, please. Next. So this was the earlier about fences. Can you see why this? What this white line is? This is actually the hair of sheep, which are going inside and coming outside the closure. So it was totally a futile exercise. It was leaky management. So what we did, we made some inviolate spaces with the help of chain link fences. Next. So I have seen many livestock were waiting outside the closures, and for a villager used to come lift this fence with the help of 2 or 3 people, and these cattle go inside. That was scene we were witnessing. Next. So we also play just to prove to others that we do have predators inside or outside the closures, which can pose a threat for the nest. So what we did, we placed some dummy nest. Dummy nest means a dummy bird with egg or poultry in different areas of the closures as to get to know what kind of predators can harm this bird. Next. You can see foxes coming. You can see mongoose also coming. Next. And even I have seen villagers used to visit these closures. Next. 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 So based on these dummy nest camera trap exercise, we were able to convince people, we were able to make a document that most of the threats for the nests of great Indian bustard is not only these eagles or crows, but also mongooses and stray dogs in these landscapes. And also this is one photograph of how stray pigs are posing a threat. Next. Next, please.
Yes.
So this is data of egg predation by different individuals. In some areas it is crow or corvids, and in some areas of foxes and mongoose. Next. Based on this data only, we were able to convince policymakers or bureaucrats and others that we need to make closures as inviolate spaces. We have to raise closures so that these areas can be closed permanently from the invading predators, even like dogs, so that the breeding females can protect their eggs from the approaching predators. You can see these dogs with the how they are hunting these blackbirds and chinkaras. Next. Next. Next, please. So what we did, we strengthened existing closures more than 25 square kilometers. Next. Not only we strengthened early closures, we also made some new closures covering an area of more than 28 square kilometers. And can you see this one newly built enclosure with 3 great Indian bustards inside it? जैसे ही उसको प्रोटेक्ट करते हैं, जैसे उसमें इनवाइट एरिया बनाते हैं, birds automatically अपने आप आती हैं और ब्रीड करती हैं. That is the observation we have come across. Next. And these are, we treat these enclosures, these closures as maternity wards for GIB. You know, in every hospital or every medical institution, there is one maternity ward which is totally exclusively only for women. Similarly, we treat these closures as maternity wards for great Indian bustard O'Neill. Nobody is allowed in these wards so that these birds can breed in a very, very cordial manner, in a very, very undisturbed manner. Next. And there were encouraging results also from 2014 onwards. we were having reports of chicks not less than 8 to 10 individuals per year. Next. Next. There are some shots of how chicks were raised. You can see one small chick. You can see in the grass, one chick and one chinkara. Again, great Indian bustard at the backdrop, and one chick just hiding in the grass. Next. The grown-up chick. Next. With mother. Next, please. Next. 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 And these are now two young ones with adult individuals. You can. This is a typical scenario in these closures as on today. Next, especially during breeding season. Next, next. So I told you this landscape is having full of agriculture. Next. So we made some closures. Next. But the Great Indian Bustard is not present in whole of the Great Desert National Park or Sanctuary. This is present only in northern portion of Sanctuary. You can see the brown portion. But this is the distribution of Great Indian Bustard, which is a flagship species. Next. Next, please. These are closures where Great Indian Bustard is present. Next. So this is brown portion is the area where these birds fly across different landscapes of Jaisalmer. This is also known as GIB arc, and the green portion is only the Desert National Park. So you can clearly identify the bird is restricted not only the DNP but also outside the DNP, where there are so many threats, so many problems, especially the infrastructure. Next. What kind of infrastructure we are having? That is the only and only that your power transmission lines. Next. This is we call it green energy windmills, but definitely as on today, it's also posing a threat for the very survival of this species. Next. Next. Question is, this is you can see this this photograph is self-explanatory. Although the future of our development, the future of our energy may be bright, but the future of the species which is thriving here is dark. You can see one Great Indian Bustard in this landscape with a wind turbine in its background. Just by seeing this photograph, one can imagine it's very close to windmill. It means it can survive with the windmill. But in fact, this windmill is around 4 kilometers away from this individual as when this photograph was taken. Next. So what happened in course of time between 2013 and 2018? There were so many windmills, transmission lines. These red lines are representing transmission lines. They have built up, and the population in the blue portion, the blue area, the blue line of this landscape are totally wiped out because of this these transmission lines. Next. Next, please. Next. You can see how these birds are dying because of collision with this infrastructure. Next. Next. This black line, this if you are good in this graphs and this figures, then this black line clearly represents how the population of this bird has declined in one landscape. There are so many windmills in this area and transmission lines. Okay, but in rest of the area, the blue line represents Desert National Park, where there are no windmills, no transmission lines. The population is still surviving. Next. There's another problem that is at transboundary level. Our population goes to Pakistan as well. That is the Bijnot area of or Cholistan area of Pakistan. We do have record, we do have papers, scientific papers. They have clearly said in 2008, one paper was published by Khan et al. That out of more than 60 individuals, 48 birds were killed. Next. Next, please. So what should be done? हम चाहे कितने भी मेहनत कर ले, we do have so many challenges. Our closest breed very well. We can protect our closest, but our individuals, if our birds keep on dying because of electrocution or because of collision with transmission lines, in last couple of years only, the reported mortality because of collision with wires is not less than 6 in this landscape. But there are also reports of unreported killing across the country and other country, that definitely we are going to lose this species in future if we don't take some other actions. What should be done? Next. Next, please. So we do have an option. We are having only 150 individuals left. बहुत कम है. So as an insurance. Next. Back, please. Back. So what should be done? As an insurance, we should have captive breeding program. Next, please. That is, captive breeding means ex situ conservation. Next. So this is the slide which is showing how a captive breeding program can be done. So what we did, we collected some of the eggs from the wild and we incubated inside the laboratory, inside the artificial facility, and we are having, as on today, not less than 15 chicks artificially reared. This is the population which can be used as a founders for our future generations. We can raise new chicks and release them outside. This is an insurance population. Side by side, we can conserve this species apart from doing our in situ measures in the field. Next. Not only this, next please. Next. So we can propose this landscape as TBR Thar Biosphere Reserve under UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program, so that we can use international organizations for the protection of this landscape, as well as a bird, which is a flagship species of this ecosystem, for the conservation of this very particular ecosystem, this very unique ecosystem, which is a desert ecosystem. It has to be protected, it has to be conserved by bringing under the umbrella of Biosphere Program. And this program clearly spells the creation of core zone or transition zone as well as buffer zone, so that the needs of local communities, the needs of local people can be taken care of. Next. Thank you very much. This is all about this landscape of the Thar Biosphere, its flagship species that is great in bustard, and what kind of challenge we are facing, and what should be done, and what is being done currently for the conservation of this landscape and this species. Thank you very much for patient hearing, and I thank Jungle Wealth for inviting me to share my ideas, my experience with you as a forest officer, as a manager of this this grassland ecosystem. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. It was absolutely fascinating. The flora, especially of Rajasthan, of the Thar Desert, what you showed us. I mean, it's completely not something that we expect. So it was wonderful, and it actually wants us to come there to right away. What is the best season to visit, sir?
See, the best season is winters itself. Winters are the best season, maybe from December to February. This is the best season to visit this landscape. And in fact, in the month of May or June, these are very hot. It's really difficult to visit this area. So winters are best.
Okay. It was really very, very informative. We really, we are only used to focusing on the green forests or the, typical tigers and leopards. I mean, that's what everybody wants to focus on. But this beauty that you showed us today was something completely different and definitely makes us want to visit. I'm sure Jungle Bells will arrange a trip to the Desert National Park soon.
Mhm.
So, thank you very much,
Okay.
sir. And it was really great to hear about the Great Indian Bustard and the efforts being made for the conservation of the bird. So you have a
In
book.
fact, Himangi, in fact, I'm just about to share it with you. Then tomorrow will be launch of my book. That this is my book, Desert National Park. It's about to be launched tomorrow only. Okay, by WWF India. So it's the book is all about the Desert National Park. What kind of problems we are facing? Same, just to showcase what kind of wilderness we are having.
Where will it be available, sir? Is it going to be
Amazon. It will be available from Amazon.
Amazon? Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Look
Okay.
forward to reading it,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Aarti.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our
Thank you.
viewers, and I would also like to thank Sanjay Deshpande of Sanjeevani Developers, who's always been our moral support and has given us, opportunity to interact with people like you, sir. So thank you, Sanjay. I'm just going to quickly see, sir, if there are any questions from anyone that maybe we can address. I guess Sanjay is only asking how can there be grass, like green grass along with desert? Like how does it
That's it.
work? Like,
Desert does not mean it does not have having any grass. It's having it's a grassland ecosystem. It's not only poesy or grass members, but there are so many other ephemerals. Ephemerals means herbaceous vegetation. If you visit this area during September, just after some few showers of rain, its rainfall is very less, from 20 to 40 mm. You can see the huge transformation in the grassland, in the ground level. So many small herbaceous vegetation will come. We call it as a grassland ecosystem, but not exactly. It's not a grass family, but it's a general term for this ecosystem, that is grassland ecosystem.
so what is the migratory path of the Great Indian Bustard? Like where does it come from?
See, recently we have tagged some of the birds. So it migrates from one closer to another closer. So far, uh, you have seen one slide that I've shown you. Uh, Birds flying from Ramdevra closer towards Bijnot area of Pakistan, adjoining the border area. It's hardly 100 kilometers pro-wide distance. That is the probable path of the birds flying to that area. But our future PTT program, PT means platform terminal transmitter, satellite based transmitter, will tell what is the exact path of these birds. Although we do have knowledge, we do have status survey of these birds, they are going from one closer to another. We do have that knowledge about database. So they don't migrate from one continent to another. This is the only local migration.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's, I think, yeah.
I would like to ask him which camera gear he uses when photographing.
Okay. I use a Canon 7D, Canon 1D Mark IV, and one lens that is Canon F4, 500 mm. The very old technology, not new.
All right. Beautiful.
Thank
So
thank you.
photographs yours from the presentation? They're all
Yeah,
yours?
all my photographs, all my photographs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were wonderful.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you soon when we plan a trip there.
Sure. You're welcome. Please.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.